with me. I'll take you back to class. Sound sound?
Okay.
Let me look for my pen.
Oh,
I don't want to have a pen here. I don't know. I was on safari for 4 days because I'm a driver with safaris as well. So, and even I can see the photo on the other side, which is very good. Let's go. Oh my goodness. Is this the normal pen or the fake one? So, this is like the globe of the world. Right? So the country of interest is Europe, Americas, Africa, the Middle East, India, and China. You see these countries, huh? Or these areas. In the early 6th and the late 16th century, in a country called Oman in the Middle East, the capital city is called Muscat in Oman. People left here, they were Arabs, with something called tamar. Tamar, T-A-M-A-R. Tamar is what you call dates in English. When you call Tamara, it means of course you call dates as a lady, right? They left with the dates because dates grow in the desert, correct? Then they went all the way to India here. In India, it was the biggest producing country with spices, as you know. It was still then and still even today.
The biggest producer of what?
Of spices.
Okay, sure.
Right? And here there's a spice that they like very much. When mixed with water, it gave a very good juice, and which actually made the body temperature to cool down. So they ended up calling it a very important juice. So they ended up calling the plant the dates of India. So they call it the
Tamarind.
Exactly, the tamarind. Understand?
Yeah.
Because if you look at dates and tamarind, they look the same, but one is sour, one is sweet. The Chinese were living also, China coming to here, bringing silk and porcelain ware. Remember the famous silk trade? So when they got it here, this Oman is sailed to Africa now. When did this sail here to Africa? Now. I mean now. Last month and this month. That's why you have the winds coming in. These are monsoons coming in. By use of the monsoon winds. They're coming by use of the monsoon winds. June and July. Now they came off the old port of Mombasa, which is somewhere there, we're going to see later on. Down the old harbour, Africans from the interior are bringing things like rhino horn, ivory, leopard as well as skin, as well as gold. They got this, then they went back to Oman. Understand? Europe, what was happening in Europe? Europe was only getting 20% of the spices. Why was this? Because this time around there was no Suez Canal. So linking up Europe and the Far East. And also the caravans that had left Europe going to India, en route back here in the Middle Eastern region, they were attacked by the hostile desert tribes, the Bedouin community, the pirates of the desert. So less than 20% of the spices arrived in Europe. So alternatively, the Europeans were forced now to look for an alternative way of going towards India, getting a bigger bounty. So in that bounty, they sent actually the famous man in 1492. Who was this man who sent? That is?
Vasco da Gama. Give me a minute. Christopher Columbus.
Exactly, Christopher Columbus. Then found what? Found Americas. Where you're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Then the big man was sent now, as you say, Vasco da Gama, 98.
1498.
1498, yeah. After, of course, Columbus failed miserably, not finding India, but found Americas, then Vasco da Gama was sent 6 years later. Now, Vasco left Portugal, went to West Africa, came down South Africa here, arrived on 5th of December, called the place the Cape of Good Hope, that there was hope of reaching Goa, India, after the winds had come down, sailed all the way here to Mombasa, but in Mombasa it's just the same day, because it was seen as bringing competition of trade between Arabs and Africans, one, and also bringing things like bring new faith Christianity against established Islam. Also had to go further north to Malindi now. But of course, before leaving Mombasa, on the northern side, they met the Mijikenda community and asked them the sea route to India. Now, this Mijikenda community or the Giriamas could not understand Portuguese when they asked where's the sea route to India. They replied by saying, Wambaze, no Wambaze, what are you saying? So Vasco da Gama wrote down that he's in Mombasa.
So India is in Mombasa.
No. Vasco da Gama left Mombasa, you know.
Yeah, went to Malindi.
Towards the northern side, finding the route to India. So he asked the local Mijikenda, where is the sea route to India? But of course, the locals could not understand Portuguese. So they actually replied by saying, Wambaze, what are you saying? So Vasco da Gama wrote that he's in Mombasa. That's why I get the name.
Interesting.
Alternatively, what you only said further up to Malindi now, he was welcome there and even given a chance to build a pillar called Vasco da Gama Pillar before sailing all the way to India within 24 days.
Wow.
Because by that time he had an established sailor, you know. But see what happened. So he stayed here for 3 weeks, collecting spices, silk and porcelain ware. On the route back now, he was going alone. He took 1.5 months. So he was going against the monsoon winds. He did not know the time of coming. So he's going the monsoon winds. So in fact, a lot of crew now develop what you call scurvy, lack of vitamin C. In any case, arriving here in Malindi, replenished more provisions. Then bypassed Mombasa because he was just in the first instance. Then went back to Portugal. Then Portugal, he told King Manuel of Portugal, the importance of coming and securing Mombasa from the Omani Arabs by building a military base to safeguard the route between Mombasa and the Far East, to be like a pit stop between Europe and the Far East. That's the reason as to why, in 1593, the Portuguese came here as a big party, strongly fought with the Omani Arabs. They got control of the area. They started building a military base called for Jesus. 1593, 16th century. So at the time when the Portuguese were here, 1593, they fought the Arabs, chased them from this entity. They started building the military base called for Jesus. And why is it called for Jesus, principally? Any question? Any idea?
No idea.
No idea.
No.
The designer was a Portuguese Italian man, and Italians are the head of the Catholic Church, so he built the fort in the shape of a cross. That's how the fort looks like, exactly where I'm standing. See this chick here is the wall you see there. See, this shoulder is the one you see here. Arm on that side, arm on that side, stomach part in the middle, then two legs behind that. I'll show you the model at the end of the day. Entirely built of the coral stone, and from the aerial view it looks like a cross. That's why it is called for Jesus. And then after they built this fort here, they used approximately 4,000 local native labor. And they carved up cliffs of coral. You see this is coral. That's why I'm using this stone. It's a coral stone. This is actually chalk, right? And chalk is what, because coral stone is actually chalk. That's what you use normally for writing in the boards. So after doing that, they said for 100 years. After 100 years, Arabs from the ocean of Mombasa, they came and attacked the Portuguese because they're afraid of the frequency of Portuguese men attacking the ships and sinking them, and of course stealing the cargo, which was going into and out of the harbor. They laid down a siege, sometimes referred to as a siege, right? In the 16th century, you know the story.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Then from there now, this fell and housed the Arabs from 1698 up to 1895. When the Arabs were here, you can keep it as a souvenir. 1698, well, you know that the Arabs now sunk an important Portuguese ship, then they stayed here for 200 years. When they were here for 200 years, Arabs never came with their wives. So on the ground, they happened to intermarry with the local community. They were born people, African Arab, they're the ones who call them Waswahili. In Uganda, they call them Chotara. Understand?
Interesting.
Two, they also left the language called Kiswahili, integration of Arab and African dialects. 3, art and traditions. Art in form of when ladies come in, what they like putting some henna and stuff. Henna is also really African, it's actually Eastern region. Foodstuffs, biryani and pilau is commonly, of course, Arab foods, Swahili foods. Art in form of also doors and balconies. Beautiful ones, you see them here, and also in the ocean of Mombasa. And also, finally, Islam as a religion. That's how long the coast we go to more Muslims. Then 1895, something very important happened.
Partition of Africa.
The partition of Africa, very correct. So Tanganyika South was taken by the Germans. Italy took over Somalia. Sultan of Zanzibar was controlling Mombasa as a separate state, and if Mombasa was taken either by the Germans or Italians from the southern side. So what did he decide to do? To invite the lesser enemy, the British. A very big mistake. British never came in Kenya by force. They were actually invited by the Sultan of Zanzibar called Jamshid to protect Mombasa against the German and Italian influence. A big mistake, but then they came under their own terms and conditions apply. One, everybody must pay hard tax for owning a house. Everyone must have identical system, Kipane system. You remember the story, right? So the locals rebelled. By rebelling, the fort was made into a prison from 1895 to 1908. So a prison for 50 years, and that's why some of the rooms look like prisons around here. And the most famous prisoner jailed here was himself, Jomo Kenyatta. And then
Jomo Kenyatta was
here for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Before taken to Manda Island in Lamu, the current American base
Yeah.
in Kenya. And then another one jailed here was a woman from the Mijikenda community. I know you know her.
As we look just like a
No, it's not a question of that. Even when you're young, you must have done that. Exactly, umetekatiliwa man. Ujamaa,
Yes.
unanunulia ile maji makubwa.
Eh,
We buy them-
mekatililiwa mwenda.
Women's, yes. So jailed here, and of course, in fact, on the other side. Then 1958, there were so many prisoners, so alternate prison was built. And then for information, before you actually go far, where it was a prison, also Italian prisoners of war jailed here. Italian prisoners of war. That's why when you live in Nairobi, I'm doing this because of this, for your sake, you go and find out. When you live in Nairobi, you reach Limuru, right? You only have the escarpment road. So you're going down towards Maimahiu, right? That road there was actually done by hand labor, Italian soldiers, by using ballast. From there all the way down to Maimahiu. That's why just before Maimahiu on the next left here, there's a big mini church, very small church. That is the smallest church in the world that can only accommodate 12 worshippers at a time. For instance, 12 disciples of Christ. So when you go to Nairobi, go and check on that.
So that church was for the Italians?
For the Italian prisoners of
the
war.
prisoners.
Okay.
Of war, for your POWs, who were actually forced by the British to build that particular road. Because you see, that was the main road going towards Naivasha initially. It was actually from Limuru, passing through by Mahio, then going towards Naivasha. The other new one, up for the Kimende one, was done after independence, when Jomo Kenyatta gave the contract to the Israelis to build that rail line. I mean that road from there all the way to there. Then at the time they were building that road, they're also fixing Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. They're also fixing the Moi International Airport, Mombasa. They're also fixing Entebbe Airport. And then all the soil was taken over. And where is it today? Put in a train in big ships here.
To Israel.
This is the one now which is actually making the production area in the Negev desert in Israel. That's why you see the Israelis are very close to Kenya because of many things. That's why they actually.
So we need to ask for a soil bar.
No. It is a contract and you agreed. And what do they do to you? They said they're going to train your commandos.
Oh, sure.
That's why
And they do
train.
that up to
We are
now.
the cheapest in all of Africa. Our commandos are the best one, given the best chances by the Israelis to be trained.
Wow.
And then they were also given a chance to be trained cheaper by Sandhurst in UK. Meanwhile, 58 so many prisoners transferred to Shumalateo in Mombasa, northern side, the 1960, historical monument, the 1963 became independent with the first Prime Minister and President Jomo Kenyatta. So.
Yes.
So we had, first of all, we had the Portuguese 100 years, built the fort like across, stayed for 100 years. Omani Arabs, just with the Portuguese, stayed for approximately 200 years. British in Kenya, stayed for approximately in Kenya 70 years, but they used the fort as a prison for 50 years. Kenya from 63 up to maybe apocalypse time.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you the truth, though we took a photo with him, but there is no Chinese time. Let's